Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, not only thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, but also Roll for Combat. And we will talk about our sponsor in just a few moments. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, December 5th, 2024. This is live stream number 1129. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then I will normally pontificate about a topic related to the hobby. We are certainly not engaged in anything along the lines of rocket surgery here. Now, tonight, as we are doing on Thursdays, it is another installment of Let's Build a Fantasy Role-Playing Game, kind of an old school flavored fantasy role-playing game. And tonight, we're going to discuss action resolution. So stay tuned for that. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel and be so for at least 10 minutes before you can take part in chat. So I kind of dissuade the unusual commenters out there. But if you happen to be a subscriber and have been for at least 10 minutes, wow, that's like an eternity for some folks nowadays. You may take part in chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, comment, fire away. I will do my absolute best to respond. So first out the gate tonight is Keith Thule, who, our good friend of the show, the Madman, is back with us. I believe he was gaming last night. That's why we didn't get to see him then. We also have Sean O'Donnell, Kathy Evans, Mike. I think I've said hello to everybody in chat so far. So the Madman says, hey, Jeff, not quite Honolulu blue and silver, but close enough. Well, I will be honest, though. I took the Packers and the points. I expect the Lions to win, but come on. It's a divisional game. They're always pretty close. And I actually got 4 points. So I was like, okay, I'll take that. I've got some props on tonight's game, too. Yes, I like me my sports betting. Anyway, Sean O'Donnell asks, has anyone tried putting this to the music of Do You Want to Build a Snowman? No, that's unusual. Gleeman RX is joining us. The man says, I don't blame you taking Green Bay in the points. Should be a good game. I'll be checking it out once the show is over. Interestingly enough, I will bet on games. I don't necessarily have to watch them because it's not like me watching it will have any sort of impact on the outcome. I know it's kind of weird. I know sports bettors out there are like, oh, I got to watch the game. And I'm like, I got my bet in. See what happens. Anyway, let's talk about our sponsor, because right now, the Dispatch is sponsored by our friends over at Roll for Combat. That's right. They are sponsoring us for the duration of their Year of Titans Kickstarter. I almost said Year of Kickstarters. Yes, it's the Year of Kickstarters. Their Year of Titans Kickstarter, which is running through December 12th. That's right. And there is a short Kickstarter video. So let's take a peek.
Remember the last time you played a tabletop RPG and your friend cast a fireball spell, killing all the enemies and exploding your whole adventuring party? I know they say that living well is the best revenge. Well, how about you play as a living fireball spell and let revenge be the best revenge with Battlezoo Ancestry's Year of Titans. Once a month for the next year, you'll receive a unique playable species you won't find anywhere else for your D&D 5th Edition or Pathfinder 2e games. Now you can play as a living spell, a skillful cyclops, a wicked troll, or even a mighty kraken. And those are just the ones I can pronounce. Hair jar?
It's pronounced ein hairyar.
Say tires?
It's satyrs.
Okay, I think I got this one. Dual hand.
Doulahan. It's a headless horseman from Irish folklore, you gigantic tit.
Every month you'll receive a new PDF or Foundry VTT module, along with handmade battle maps, tokens for your virtual tabletop, both static and animated, and detailed in-world lore entries, allowing you to easily add these unique species to your next tabletop session. All this and more for less than a monthly Egg McMuffin. Delicious. Head on over to the link in the description to learn more, because if you sign up for the Kickstarter, you'll get a bonus species a year early. The Mighty Titan. That's 13 unique species throughout 2025 to amaze your friends and family. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to call my dungeon master and tell them that I'm going to be playing as Godzilla from now on. Godzilla.
The Year of Titans Kickstarter is over 790% funded. You can reserve your copy, yes, your very own year, for either Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder. You can do so in either PDF or the Foundry Virtual Tabletop, and it will run you a $59 pledge. Or you can get the PDFs and Virtual Tabletop elements together in the flavor of your choice for a $99 pledge. Once again, this is running through December 12th, and delivery of your Titans shall begin in January. Very nice. Very nice. So Daryl Erritz with us once again. Good to see you, Daryl. Says, observer effect, yes, I'm familiar with that, is the idea that observing a phenomenon or situation changes it. Keith Lewis says, fantasy football is Dungeons and Dragons for the guys who used to pick on the guys who played Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, I played, I go so far back, I played rotisserie baseball. We didn't even call it fantasy. It was rotisserie leagues. In fact, we started doing that in high school. Pretty wild. Semper Buffo is joining us, as is Zorak Zoran1 and Kevin King. Good to see you. Matthew Blackwell is also popping on in. Very nice. Very nice. Welcome aboard, everybody. So we're going to jump on into the news. So I've got a nice eclectic mix tonight, although we are sort of leaning pretty much into just tabletop role-playing stuff. Well, okay, the first news piece I've got kind of feels like you could use these rules for minis. Dark Autumn Scribe is joining us once again. Welcome aboard. All right, so let's jump on into the news, because available in print and PDF is Carnage and Ether, Revenants of Vildonia, And I've got the lowdown from Blackoath Entertainment. Condemned to the Veldorian arena for your crimes, you're faced with a single chance to recover your life. Fight countless battles to prove your mastery in combat and become reborn. Carnage and Ether, Revenants of Veldonia, is a tactical arena battler set in the world of Kernathalis, in which your character must face terrible creatures and ruthless warriors as they climb through the ranks, seeking glory and redemption. Yeah, I would have to say that the timing of this coming out, pretty good, right? Pretty good. Gladiator 2, you know what I mean? Carnage and Ether, Revenants of Veldonia, features a simple, intuitive D100 rule set that both veterans and newcomers to tabletop games can grasp in a matter of minutes. Rich and detailed tactical combat that takes place on a grid map representing the Veldonian arena. Hit locations, multiple critical hit tables, defensive moves, and everything you need to bring brutal arena battles to life. You've got near infinite character builds. Instead of relying on classes, a character's abilities and capabilities depend on the gear they have equipped. Tired of being a necromancer that shoots fireballs and wields a two-handed axe? Swap up your gear and become an ice-wielding warrior, a deadly sharpshooter, an assassin, or anything you can think of. All gear is crafted based on the materials you obtain after defeating your enemies. Craft unique sets of gear to take advantage of an enemy's weaknesses, and slowly but surely unlock the hundreds of different powers available to your character. Patrons are an important source of benefits and support, so you must make sure you pick the one that will support you on your chosen path. There are dozens of different enemies, from terrible skeletons to enormous lizards and anything in between, each one with their own behavior tables and actions, so you never know what to expect. Complex elite enemy fights that require you to completely change your usual strategies. Make sure you chop off that dangerous tentacle, get rid of that armored tail if you want to win the fight. Each elite has a number of phases that you must go through before defeating them, gaining different abilities and actions. There are actually 7 different types of matches because not all fights must be to the death. No, that's right, because we have that to the pain. This is written to be played solitaire or cooperatively, regardless of how many players there are. And the game will throw you the exact challenge you need to have a balanced and fun fight. This 256-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $40 over at DriveThruRPG. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so for $15. I gotta say, I am intrigued. It's kind of cool. And as I mentioned, from what I've seen, which isn't a lot, one gets the feeling that you could very easily utilize this for skirmish level arena battles with your minis. I think so. Very cool. All right, let's see. Double check in. I don't see anybody new in chat. Oh, I should actually mention stupid me. Forgot to say hello, if she is lurking in the shadows, to the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, who would be our second chat moderator if she happens to be floating around tonight. Always like to say hello to Sarah D. And of course, if for some reason Sarah's not watching, we're down to a lonely chat moderator, the Madman. Well, unless Flaming Huron pops in. Kevin King says, so this is X-Crawl with a more serious tone. I wouldn't mind taking a peek at X-Crawl, the new edition that came out. In fact, I thought it's possible it's this week that those physical books and adventures in that were coming out. Bradley Thorpe is joining us, says that they just bought some more tabletop role-playing game books and a few different systems. Very cool. Oh, Sarah D says she's always watching. Aha! Like Santa Claus. See, folks out there thought I was going to get bizarre. No, not at all. Always watching, make sure if you're being good or naughty, like Santa Claus, right? That's how that works. Let's move on to our next news piece, because Two Little Mice is getting ready to enter the home stretch for their crowdfunding project for Household Volume 2. Here's the scoop. Household Volume 2 is a great expansion for the, well, you guessed it, household role-playing game. Picks up the story not long after the events depicted in Volume 1. This book will expand the world of the game, opening the door to the garden and introducing new little folk as well as other creatures of all shapes and sizes. You'll be able to visit the fountain where the legendary Battle of Quill Waters took place. Brambletown, where the Boggarts, aren't they, isn't that Boggart? Oh, I don't think they're called Bogarts. I thought they're Boggarts. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, regardless, they found refuge during their time in exile, and even the stump of the Dendronos tree and the distant shogunate of the Silver Blade in the backyard. On top of that, Household Volume 2 also introduces new folk and vocations, additional mechanics tied to the changing seasons, new colossal opponents that are completely out of scale for all littlings, and much, much more. There is a backer kit video. That's right, because this is not on Kickstarter. It's relatively short, but let's take a peek.
The garden. Some call it the outer or endless green. Some see it as a harsh, inhospitable land. And some call it the last bastion of freedom. Some strive to conquer it. Poor souls. The truth is, nothing out there is like it is on the inside. And it is all immeasurably vast. Too vast, even. And yet, if you know where to look, you can maybe find yourself. How am I so sure about this? Simple enough. I've seen it. Household, Volume 2. Welcome to the garden.
The backer kit for Household Volume 2 is over 3,600% funded. Yes, you heard that correctly. 3,600% funded. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover for a €60 pledge. If you want to just grab the PDF, you can do so for a €25 pledge through December 12th. Now, there are actually 2 game books and then an art book, which is available as a slipcase set. And I want to say the second volume is a trio of adventures. And in fact, you're seeing it. It's the one with like the snow. That is the adventure book. That would be available as a slipcase set for a pledge of €100. Very cool. I always say Two Little Mice has some of the best looking art. Really, really nicely done. And you might not be aware of this. Here's a little news piece that you might not know of. Oh, Kevin King just blurted it out. Yes, it was announced earlier this morning that Free League Publishing has entered into an agreement with Two Little Mice to actually publish and distribute Outgunned. I did not see any word about Household yet, but Yep. So there you go. Gluin RX is also mentioning that also. So yes, for Outgunned. So nothing about Household yet. But I would say it bodes very nicely for us to see Free League Publishing be able to distribute Household, because I've heard really good things about it, but I don't think it's that easy to get your hands on. Just like Outgunned came out, it was supposed to be in stores. I don't know if it made it or not, but according to distributors, it was the print run for retail was hitting maybe about a month ago or so. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it though. But I know from some folks in chat on some of the live streams, they say that Outgunned is really good. Really good. W. Forge's Broken Compass came and went in a flash. Yeah, because Outgunned is essentially Broken Compass, isn't it? Isn't that what it is? Because W. Forge is talking about cool mini or not. Didn't they buy it? Didn't they take that over? Didn't they take Broken Compass over? So kind of cool, kind of cool. So someone, who was it who made the Casablanca reference? I saw that pop by and it said, play it, Sam. Talking about, oh, there we go, Keith Ulu. Like Bogarts, Humphrey Bogart. Here's a little item that I'm sure many of you are aware of. Some of you may not. But at no point in time does Humphrey Bogart ever say, play it again, Sam. Never. It is not in the movie. Just like Mae West never said, come up and see me sometime. And if I remember right, I think it's Cary Grant she's talking to, a very young Cary Grant. But if I remember correctly, because I love Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart says, you can play it for her, you can play it for me. Play it. That's it. That's basically it. W. Forge says, Outgunned Adventure is Broken Compass 2.0. Sweet. Now, I should also mention, if they are teaming up with Free League Publishing, it is very, very likely that we will actually be able to get to take a peek at it, and I'll be able to do reviews of it. So that'd be kind of cool. W. Forge points out, Kirk never said, beam me up, Scotty. Never? Not even in a movie? That's interesting. It's kind of wild. It's sort of that Mandela effect, but with movie lines. I was getting a kick out of some of the Mandela effect movie-related things, and it's like, no. It's like, who thought that? It's like, I remember, no, that didn't happen. What the hell are you talking about? Although there are some pretty wild, like, product-related Mandela effects. I'm kind of like, oh my gosh. It's like, holy shit, really? All right, let's move on to our next news piece, because Bundle of Holding has rolled out another offer. There's like 6 bundles going on right now. And I've got the deets on the Forged in the Dark 2 deal. Adventurer. Forged in the Dark 2 presents an all-new array of recent standalone tabletop role-playing games that use the Forged in the Dark rule system based on John Harper's Blades in the Dark from 1-7 Design Studio. These inventive role-playing games adapt the fast-playing, suspenseful Blades rules to Cold War espionage, royal court intrigue, character-driven space opera, near-future action, Hogwarts-style wizard schooling, and pirate high seas adventure. For just $9.95, you'll get all 4 complete games in the starter collection, which have a retail value of $55. There's Adrenaline from Adrenaline Games. It's a high-action, modern-day, or cyberpunk game of thrill-seeking characters who swindle, steal, and shoot their way to infamy and fortune, or die trying. There's Minutes to Midnight from Oliver Smock. In a modern Cold War, a crew of spies tries to disrupt the balance of power. And then we have To Teach Their Own from Mouse Wife Games. Grown-up witches teaching student witches valuable lessons about magic and life. Okay, I threw the life thing in, like facts of life, sort of. Yeah, okay. Also included is the free Blades in the Dark system reference document, the model and inspiration for all the games in this offer. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $19.01, you'll level up and also get the entire bonus collection with 3 more complete games worth an additional $46. There's Rebel Crown from Narrative Dynamics. Courtly intrigue, obsessive ambition, and peerless conflict surround the claimant, former heir to the throne. A Nocturne from Callum Grace. The crew of an interstellar spittercraft, a vast, weird, scarred old spaceship, tries to make a profit by any means necessary. And then there's Sea of Dead Men from Joe Atkinson, a crew of pirates making their fortune in the lawless Carascan Sea. These savings will run through December 23rd. Cool. So if you're a fan of Fortune in the Dark, hey, you got a hell of a lot of genres here to choose from. Pretty sweet deal. Pretty sweet deal. There are a lot of rocking bundles to be had at the moment by way of both Bundle of Holding and Humble Bundle. So I know over at Humble Bundle, we still have the Pathfinder one going on. And then we've got that really cool Free League Publishing bundle going on where, you're getting essentially tons of stuff. You're not getting the licensed stuff. You're not getting the Blade Runner. You're not getting the Alien. But you're getting pretty much at least the core elements of just about everything else from Free League Publishing for like $25. It's like, how can you go wrong? Sean O'Donnell says they're on the fence about Forged in Dark games. I don't know enough. You know what? I'm with you on that. I don't know enough about Blades in the Dark. So Mike says they got the G.I. Joe Humble Bundle. Yeah, but we don't talk Renegade Game Studios around here anymore. They're bad people. They gave me a big ball of disrespect at Gen Con. I was like, oh, I'm done covering you guys. And Mike says, oh, I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. This hurry banished the juju with Mausrita. But I got to agree. I don't know enough about Blades in the Dark. I've always heard good things about it, but I've never taken a peek. So from my understanding, it's always been that it is built on the Apocalypse engine, that Blades in the Dark it's not necessarily powered by the Apocalypse game, but it did borrow relatively heavily from the Apocalypse engine. That's what I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. So Sean O'Donnell says if that SRD is free, they think they'll poke around. SRD should be free. I have honestly never heard anybody charging for their system reference document because they want it out there for people to design stuff, third party for their stuff. So I don't know. We'll find out. Moving right along, there's an interesting looking Troika adventure, which is out from Heavy Crown Games and Exalted Funeral. Here's what I know about the Forest Primordia. A brand new story adventure awaits you. Try and survive this wild, nameless crystal sphere. Eat god meat. Party with chaos fairies. Run with a herd of rainbows. And of course, just that alone probably leads you to understand that this is for Troika. The players are lost in the depths of the mirror-mined skies, shipwrecked upon an uncharted forest world. Abandoned, hollowed-out spears float above them, exquisite and doom-laden. The Game Master weaves multiple stories to create a vibrant living world for the players to interact with. A scheming devotee of chaos, gleefully willing to sacrifice anything to resurrect a long-forgotten god. A village of dreamers and artisans living out the fat of that god's soulless shell of a body. That's pretty funny. A cohort of mechanical knights whose faith has been eroded by their tedious, millennia-long vigil, as well as an intrepid doctor determined to experience the wildest aspects of the Omniverse. You'll experience 3 distinct locales: the village that eats its god every night, an idyllic place with a novel universal food security system; the forest Primordia, a lush, vibrant woodland full of slug spawns, reverse lightning, and drunken trees; as well as the deconstructed Ziggurat, a crumbling stronghold with secrets divine and somber. This adventure has a hex crawl, a dungeon crawl, 11 new backgrounds, including Mind Seed Revelator. I think it's Revelator. It's like, what? And Pandemonic Splendorist. New enemies, including morose mechanical knights and a resurrected Chaos Lord. It's all original artwork. There's even a 5+ hour playlist to set the mood. Randomizers for character backstory, chaos portals, god meat induced dreams, and more. This 56-page zine carries an MSRP of $20. That does include the PDF. Now, that is available over at Exalted Funeral. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, it is not available over at Exalted Funeral, but it is available through itch.io. So if you are interested in checking this out and you want to take a peek at the PDF, tomorrow I will have the news piece up, and it will also include the itch website for Heavy Crown Games. Gotta say, this sounds pretty unique. Sounds pretty kind of weird. Kind of wacky. Then again, a lot of the Troika stuff is kind of off the wall. All right, final news piece. There is a new slimmed down edition of the Traveler role-playing game, which is available in PDF, and you can also pre-order from Mongoose Publishing. And I've got the skinny on. The Merchants Edition. Traveler is the science fiction role-playing game of the far future. The Traveler Merchants Edition is an introduction to the game for newcomers that provides all of the tools you need to create adventures or even an entire campaign. Create bold, exploratory traders and merchant princes who travel into the unknown aboard their trusty Type A2 Far Trader, a rugged merchant ship perfect for frontier space. Dock your ship at advanced starports, visit strange worlds, encounter alien beings and animals, and make a fortune as you cross the galaxy. The universe awaits. Welcome to Traveler. This 72-page softcover right now can be pre-ordered for $19.99 from Mongoose Publishing. Or if you want to grab just the PDF alone right now, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $1. Yes, you heard that correctly. A solitary single dollar will get you the Merchants Edition of Traveler. Now, I did not take a peek, but I'm going to take a guess that maybe they've discontinued the dollar Traveler Quick Start that was available. I wonder, because Mongoose Publishing did offer an introduction to Traveler for $1 previously. So W. Ford says 72 pages for $1. Reasonable pricing seems somewhere in between. I gotta be honest. I doubt that Mongoose Publishing expects to sell a bunch of the soft covers. I mean, the reality is, yeah, if you were going to check out Traveler, if you have not checked out Traveler, we talk about this all the time too, that always if there's a certain big role-playing game out there that you're interested in checking out, always keep your eyes peeled on Humble Bundle. Usually Bundle of Holding, it's smaller publishers. It's more indie stuff. Whereas Humble Bundle, like right now, the Free League Publishing deal they've got on, or the Pathfinder deal that's going on. They've done that with Traveler as well. So I would think if you're curious about Traveler, you would probably pick up the PDF to take a peek. And then if you're like, yeah, I like this, I'm going to order the core book. Probably not the Merchant's Edition. I mean, that's just my take. So I guess it's probably being offered as a pre-order for those completists out there. That might be it. Might be. So W. Ford says they bought Archiver for Mothership at Exalted Funeral for $25. It's a good zine, but $25 for 60 pages feels like they overspent. Yeah, I could understand that, especially if it's, a zine. Yeah, I know. But you know what? It's got to the point where, to me at least, it's kind of silly for me to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, price-wise, this is pretty pricey. Because the reality is there's just so much stuff out there that's in print that's just doesn't feel priced right. But then again, the cost of printing stuff has been jacked up incredibly. So Chris Lundgren is with us in chat, says they like Humble Bundle, but the download option for the PDFs is kind of wonky. I'll take the wonkiness for the huge savings. Seriously, they'll have deals where they'll have like $800 or more worth of PDFs, and you can get it all for $30. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. So, some discussion of Exalted Funeral having some deals. Gleeman RX says they have no idea what Mouse Ritter is, or I should say, Mouserita! As a spider goes, it's not in front of camera. I'm not going to bother with it. I mean, sorry, it's not warmer. I don't know what to tell you. So they had no idea what it is, but I gave it a 10 out of 10. So they had to get it. So the reality is, the way I kind of look at it, I think Mouse Ritter is very well done. Very, very nicely done for a rules light sort of game. And if you are into the swords and whiskers kind of thing, if you grew up with like the Redwall novels or other kind of anthropomorphic mice, like Mouse Guard, as an example, I think it does a really good job with that. I also think that it wouldn't take a whole hell of a lot for you to tweak that and make it, instead of being mice adventurers, just kind of old school Renaissance sort of characters for fantasy. So you got that. Daryl Errett says, I bought Warhammer's Humble Bundle, and if you choose the download all link, it dropped several of the PDFs. To get all of them, you had to choose them one by one. Yeah, I believe that. I could see where they did that. So Sean O'Donnell says, I mean, $30 for the entire core of the game and 1 through 20 in adventure paths plus maps, season 3 of the Society, which would be 12 of those. If they still give discounts on some stuff for owning the PDFs, then I'm saving even more. I don't think they do that anymore. Got to be honest. I don't think Paizo does that. Paizo's kind of changed up because it used to, like, Paizo had a thing where if you bought the PDF of an adventure path chapter, you could port it into Foundry. And it was actually worked pretty well. It kind of got away with that. It's sort of like, oh, no, you want the Foundry? You got to buy it. You got to buy it separate. I was like, rats. Because that was actually a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal. All right, so that's it for the news tonight. Of course, I mentioned Drive-Thru RPG a few times. Don't forget the Dispatch, thus the gaming gang itself as well, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to stop by Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, yes, it's not Game Masters Guild, War Game Vault, whatever, please stop by the newly redesigned thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Delicious. And there are some folks out there who swing on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make not small donations, such as recently our good friend of the show, the Madman, as well as Joshua Edwards. So big thank you to all of you out there. Doesn't matter if you're popping on over to Drive-Thru RPG through our banner ads, or stopping on by paypal.me, English Jeff. It is really appreciated. Thank you very kindly. Should also mention that the 50/50 gently used game sale is continuing through December 14th. And of course, as I had pointed out before, there are still around 200 items that are available for sale in fantastic shape. In fact, as an example, I know the Madman has picked up some games from time to time through some of our sales in the past. They're all sparkly and nice. They're not all beat to shit or anything like that. Oh, yeah, that game we've played every day for 7 years. Yeah, I'm selling that. Oh, card sleeves? No, we didn't bother with card sleeves. Anyway, and of course, I am going to donate half of what I raise minus PayPal's fees to the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So there you go. Madman points out every game they've picked up from the sales is in pristine condition. Yeah, I do my best to keep things looking nice. Okay, so tonight we are going to continue the Let's Design a Fantasy Role-Playing Game. Kind of an old school influenced fantasy role-playing game in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
The Christmas season is celebrated all over the world and in many different ways, depending on deep-rooted legend, folklore, and tradition. The Greeks carried a torch for Christmas. They were the first to use gaily colored lights. Germany was the home of the Christmas tree. There are many traditions associated with the Yule log. In England, it means luck to cut the logs at midnight. Dry spruce is used in Scandinavia because its sparks chase the witches away. Magical powers are credited to the charred ash in many countries. In France, ashes under the bed protect the house from lightning. In Holland, the children leave their wooden shoes in front of the fireplace. In Spain, the children put their shoes at the window. And here's an American tradition which Santa Claus has taken a liking to. Yes, there are different ways of observing Christmas, but its message is always the same all over the world. Peace on earth, goodwill to all men.
It's holiday time, and Beauregard cries, "Hey, look, there's a snowman ringing our doorbell." And Elsie says, "That's no snowman. It's Elmer with a surprise. Borden's Eggnog, the extra special holiday drink. Borden's, very big on flavor." "Wow, Borden's Eggnog. Now we can have a party." Borden's Eggnog is the delicious holiday treat the whole family loves, right from the carton. It's made with lots of eggs, milk, and real sweet cream. Rich and creamy, better than the best milkshake you ever tasted. Borden's, very big on flavor. This is the only time of year you can get it, so ask Mom for Borden's Eggnog today.
So by Borden's, very big on flavor.
Greetings to Father, who works all year for the family and outdoes himself at this joyous season with lots of surprises for everyone. Greetings to Mother, that miracle worker of the home whose loving effort seems sometimes like magic. And greetings to little brother, usually a terror, but somehow since he visited Santa at the department store, he's not been himself at all. Greetings to Sister, who was so busy decorating the house with mistletoe and then seemed to forget it was there. Greetings to Grandma, Grandpa, and all your uncles and aunts. May you gather round the table for your Christmas feast in the joyous tradition.
And may your celebration be filled with all the good things of life. And may the spirit of peace and happiness, love and good fellowship, which is the true meaning of Christmas, encompass your entire family.
What we want to say is that the management and staff of this theater, all of us, all of you, good luck, good health, good times, and a very Merry Christmas.
So there's some discussion about eggnog in chat. It's like King's like, I like eggnog, but it's not better than a milkshake. I will mention, I'm sure there are many of you out there who recall how good eggnog once was back when we were small children, even teenagers. Really different tasting nowadays. I mean, there's like hardly any nutmeg in it. It's like, wow. At least the eggnog I've had. It's usually really thin and yeah, kind of strange. Kind of weird. Tessie Trekkie's popping on into chat. Good to see you. Welcome. Said a handmade milkshake with Beulah vanilla ice cream is superb, and they're lactose intolerant. Purple Bite is also popping on in. Welcome once again. All right. So last week we kicked off a new series, which we're going to be doing on Thursday nights for a little while. Probably, about a month more. I would guess. And essentially what we're doing is we are building a rules light fantasy role-playing game. And it's going to have an old school vibe to it. So as I mentioned last week, we are going to use the traditional, regular old attributes, the strength, dexterity, intelligence, so on and so forth. And we will have the same 3 to 18 range, and it is a roll under. Verbal Bite says eggnog is yellow-colored snot. Well, it would depend on what eggnog you're getting. Keith Ula points out it's practically pure fat, but so good. I'm like, I always used to like eggnog shakes. When you'd have eggnog ice cream at like Baskin Robbins or whatever, I'd get eggnog shakes. Anyway, so the system itself is going to be roll under. So you'll have checks against your strength, your dexterity, wisdom, things like that. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about action resolution. And our core mechanic is going to remain the same. So when I was talking about last week how I wanted to make sure that this is rules light, I don't want a lot of subsystems to the game. So if you took a look at, say, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you've got various different subsystems. Like, okay, so for strength, you had different resolution for strength, like, bending bars and stuff like that. And then for your thieves, so you would have percentile dice, but then the rest of the time you're rolling a 20-sided die. Or like even in, if I remember correctly, I think it's basic D&D, basic and expert, where like if you've got a thief, or, oh no, I know what it was. It's based on strength, a door which is stuck. To open a stuck door, now you're rolling a 6-sided die. Okay, so 20-sider, percentile die, 6-sided die. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I would prefer that your resolution mechanic just be uniform throughout the whole thing. So what we are looking at is the roll under on a 20-sided die. So rolling a 1 is great. Yeah, that's a critical success. And rolling a 20 is a critical failure. And we also will have advantage and disadvantage, which is not going to be roll another 20-sided die. So we're going to have different levels of advantage and disadvantage. A D4, D6, D8. If it's advantage, you're rolling that along with your 20-sided die and you subtract that from your total. Easy enough. And if you have disadvantage, it is the opposite. So you'll roll that die alongside your 20-sided die and add that to your roll, keeping in mind it's roll under, not equal to and under. Because I always want a chance of failure. So I have to say, last Friday, I was talking to my best friend, Elliot Miller, as the discussion of eggnog just continues. Welcome once again to I guess we'll do Borden's. Welcome once again to the Borden's Eggnog Hour. Verbal Bite says eggnog's responsible for the fall of Rome and the Manhattan Project. Tessie Trekkie says best eggnog is homemade and intensely boozy. I don't know. I don't mind a little bit of rum in my eggnog, but I have had some eggnog where it was like, oh my God. Or somebody is like, Captain Morgan. Okay, you do understand that's spiced rum. Okay, that's not made to be put in eggnog. Blue RX asks, what's the preference for roll under versus roll over? So the preference is that I want each point of your attribute to mean something. So we talked about this last week, where if you take, normally a range from 9 to 11-ish, 9 to 12-ish, depending on the game. If it's a system where you're rolling a 20-sided die, you're looking to roll high, then the modifier you get is nothing. You get 0. There's nothing. So it doesn't matter if you got a 9 or a 12 in that attribute, you're just rolling a straight up 20-sided die. Whereas if you're using the attribute and you're rolling, well, you could do equal to as well as under. I'm just doing rolling under because of the advantage, the disadvantage, and things like that. So what you'd be looking at is there's a huge difference then between having a 9 and having a 12 as far as your success rate. So that's kind of why I'm rolling that out there. So Sean O'Donnell says roll under means no need for modifiers. Here's how the modifiers will work. The modifiers are going to be that advantage, that disadvantage. So if you were watching last week, we were talking about keywords. So this is going to be built on keywords. So we won't have classes. We have keywords. Dice Tales is with us. Welcome back. Good to see you once again. So yes, Dice Tales points out there's a 5% difference if you include the number rather than just under it. Yes, I understand how that works. Really? No. So I'm like, yeah. Okay, so remember, if you watched last week, if you're just tuning in tonight, you didn't watch last week's episode, then I could see you being kind of at a loss. But we're going to also have, Dice Tale says, you'd be shocked how many people don't understand that. Yeah, I understand. That's why rolling percentile dice is far more intuitive for people than rolling a 20-sided die. Even though it's, especially, if you're looking to roll under, still the same thing, right? So anyway, but if you didn't watch last week's episode, this is all going to be like, what the hell's he talking about? Dice Tale says numbers hard. Math is hard. So what we're going to have is keywords. And the keywords are going to be your improvements and your skills and things like that. I don't want to get into like a bunch of skills, but I also want the characters to be very customizable. So these keywords can be many different things. And the keyword, the concept of the keywords will also actually allow players and game masters to kind of custom tailor how deep into the woods they want to get, or into the weeds as far as how they want to get into these keyword modifiers. So if you have advantage, you're rolling a 4-sided die. And the thing is, it's not going to be easy to have like a D6 advantage or a D8 advantage. A D8 advantage is going to be a huge deal. I mean, if we're using it for like keywords as far as the character's abilities would be, I mean, you're looking at that's someone who's like world class. Because remember, we're going to take that number off of whatever they roll and subtract it from their D20. So Anyways, there's more talk about booze. Oh man, that's pretty funny. Chris Leonard's talking about the life path. See, I don't want to get into that. I don't want all that kind of tables and stuff like that, like you would see in Witcher and stuff. The life path stuff, or like the Cubicle 7 books that have come out, where like a life well lived and stuff like that. That's more to give you a background for your character, to give them to build a backstory. If you look closely, it's not as if, well, The Witcher is a little bit different, but with like a life well lived and stuff like that. The what does Cubicle 7 call it? Vault 5e is the group, the creators of those. And I mean, and they're cool books. But it's sort of like, I'm the sort of game master. I don't want my players sitting around at home, spending 4 hours crafting a backstory and everything for their characters, because the reality is I don't actually care. I don't care about the backstories. I come from an age where the backstories of the characters comes about through the adventuring, not the, oh, well, you know, I've got 20 years of all this backstory that now as a player, I expect my game master to incorporate into their game. And then you get 4 or 5 people at your table who all want to do that. It's sort of like, no. It's like, no. Kevin King says it's sort of like the Dungeon Crawl Classics dice chain in reverse. A little bit. It's a little bit like that. So as far as, and talking about these keywords is important to the action resolution, because the action resolution is roll under your attribute. So if you were looking to force a door in a dungeon that's kind of stuck, maybe humidity has caused, the wood to expand, whatever, you're rolling a check against strength. So you're looking to roll under that attribute. If you need to make a save, so there aren't going to be saves for like, oh, dragon breath or death, or no, they will be attribute saves. It'll be the same exact thing. Same exact thing. You're going to be rolling under your attribute. So the advantage and disadvantage will also carry over to these keywords. So as an example, like I had said, we're looking at kind of custom, each table can custom craft how detailed they want these keywords to be. So as an example, a keyword for a player could be seafarer. Okay. So what would that mean? Well, you could be like, oh, because remember, we want to stay rules light and we want to still focus on a key tenet of the old school, which is rulings over rules. That's why at the end of the day, the rules for this, I can't imagine leaving magic out of it. I can't imagine it being more than like 15 pages, if maybe even that. So essentially what would happen would be a character that's got the seafarer keyword would get advantage on rolls that they would make regarding seamanship or being on a boat. So things along those lines. Now, if players and game masters wanted to get a little more into the weeds, you could have things like sea navigation as a keyword. but I wouldn't want to go that deep into the weeds on it. I would like to keep the keywords more at a higher level, right? So something else would be combat wise, that a keyword would be melee fighter, something like that, right? So Kevin King says his keyword is omnipotent. Okay, so that's going to cost you a lot of experience points. Purple White says, my backstory, son of a mortal mother and the god Zeus. Chris Lundgren asks about the courage check again. You had brought that up last week. No, I don't really have any interest in tossing something like that in there. I mean, is there a courage check in D&D for player characters? Not morale, because there will be morale for NPCs, monsters, stuff like that, and will be about as easy as D&D would be. Original D&D, or like basic expert. I'm trying to remember. I think the morale in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was pretty much the same. So, but as far as those sorts of things, no, not really. Like I said, I want to keep this pretty rules light. And something else I don't want. So a big deal as far as I look at it, and this is also another tenet of the old school, is that the player character should succeed and fail more because of the player's smarts, their cleverness, as opposed to what's on the character sheet. And I don't want to sit there and dictate how a player is going to run their character or role play their character outside of their attributes and say their keywords and things like that. So if we've got something where it's like, if you've got a courage check, then what you're looking at is that now you start getting into, well, however we would put that into operation. Now you've got, well, my character fails courage checks all the time, so they're a coward. So now I'm going to start role-playing the character as a coward. And it's kind of like, I mean, which would be fine if somebody wants to role-play their character as, a sniveling coward or something. Yeah, that's fine. But I don't want the dice rolls and things like that to force that upon anybody. We've talked about this before, that one of the problems that I see with a lot of role-playing games out there, and even role-playing games that I like, is that there's far too much of the, let's look at the character sheet. We're trying to address a problem. We're trying to address a challenge. And I'm looking at the character sheet to see, okay, so what is it that I have on here that I can use to overcome that challenge? Where it should be the players sitting around the table spitballing ideas on how to tackle something, as opposed to staring at a character sheet. So, so Chris is saying, well, it's just, they like the idea of being afraid when they first meet a monster. Well, that is part of the job of the game master, is to present a creature or monster or whatever in a way that you're making the players realize, yeah, this is bad. Taylor Eric says, different categories of skills. Rocket science costs more than scuba diving. Yes, there is. So what I actually spent about an hour and a half talking to Elliot. And I was sitting in a Walmart parking lot, freezing my ass off because I don't actually have heat in my car anymore. And it was funny. He was like super excited by the ideas I was floating out. Because we talked a little bit about like the magic system and stuff like that. So what we would be looking at is like for your starting character. So the starting character is going to be able to choose their species. Vorpal Bites is Walmart homeless camper. Hey, you'd be amazed at how many people with RVs park in Walmarts. And they're not like homeless. They're people who are like saving money and go to an RV park. Because if a Walmart owns that parking lot, they welcome truckers and RV owners and stuff like that to park there because it's safer. So anyway, Matthew Blackwell says, I like not having alignment. Yes, player characters will not have alignment. NPCs and monsters will. And the only reason why there is an alignment is to sort of guide the game master in how to utilize these various different NPCs, creatures, stuff like that. We're not going to get into like the lawful, neutral, and things like that. But we will have, you know, I don't think we'll aim for like law and chaos. Funny thing is, most people don't realize where that kind of came from, as far as Michael Moorcock's Elric stories with the Eternal Champion. And I think it got away from being law is order. Law is not necessarily good, right? Chaos is change. Chaos isn't necessarily bad. Although that's sort of how things ended up boiling down into D&D. So, W4 says, I hate when players don't play their alignment, especially when they try to play evil characters. Death to all. Oh, but don't let the orphans die. That's kind of funny. Or somebody is, lawful good, and it's like, I don't know who's lying. Kill them all. I'd be like, what? I can't figure out which one of these people here is lying to me, so we'll just put them all to death. So Sean O'Donnell also points out alignment systems don't really make any sense with rulings over rules mentally, especially in a classless system. Right. Yeah, exactly. Plus, I'm always a firm believer in there should be shades of gray. So I just like that, because it fits in with, even with swords and sorcery stories, and that, Conan the Barbarian has some not very good traits. Fafhrd and Grey Mouser have some less than stellar traits. So, anyway, so as far as the keywords, so if you have the first level of a keyword, you're going to get that D4 advantage. So as an example, like Elliot was like, well, what about like wizards and combat and stuff? Because he's like, I hate where it's like, oh yeah, you're a first level wizard. So it's like all you get is like a rock. I'm like, yeah, you get to choose like a dagger a quarterstaff, a sling. Don't wizards get slings? And I'm like, yeah, and that's kind of it. That's pretty much all you get to choose from. And they're pretty terrible. Glenn RX says Conan punching that camel in the first movie and then in the sequel. Now, his mistreatment of animals isn't really on my radar. I'm talking more about the Robert E. Howard stories. But you'll have the advantage when you're doing something that has to do with that keyword. So that's one of the reasons why, and I don't know what we'll call it, but like martial skill, whatever is a keyword. So that if you had a wizard and a keyword for a wizard would be, one of them would be caster, which a cleric would get as well, caster, because we'll have archetypes to build around. We just don't have classes. So we'll actually have the archetypes, which are kind of built around your traditional fantasy role-playing game classes, but then you can customize from there. So Kevin King says, Pfeiffer and Grey Mouse are wiping out everyone in the Thieves Guild, regardless of age, and the Ilmet in Lankmar. That doesn't bother me that much. Grey Mouse are being attracted to prepubescent girls is troublesome. That's kind of stuff I'm talking about. But that wouldn't be, hopefully, role-played around your table. Anyway, so as I had told him, I said, so, a wizard who is, as Chris is rocking on out, good to see you again, Chris. So if you wanted a wizard who could wield a sword and not, cut their own hand off, then as a keyword, you would take martial skill, whatever, like I said. So then they would actually have advantage in combat. Pretty easy. At least in my opinion, pretty simple. So the keywords give you the advantage. Game masters, the difficulty of something is what creates the disadvantage. And if you'd missed last week's episode where we kicked off this series, I talked about, I like the concept of advantage and disadvantage. I don't like how it's implemented in role-playing games. Like, I think with advantage and disadvantage, say in 5e, rolling an additional 20-sided die makes things really swingy. Hugely swingy. So if you have advantage and you're rolling your two 20-sided dice, I mean, it happens. People fail, of course. But it's far more than just an advantage that they have on that roll. I don't want to necessarily say it's a sure thing for success, but it's a hell of a lot more than just an advantage. And disadvantage is the same way. But I do like using an advantage-disadvantage system so that the game master doesn't have to sit there and be like, okay, so we've got this modifier and that modifier and that modifier and this modifier. We're going, okay, total them all up. And then, okay, all comes out to -1. I don't want to do that. I don't want that kind of math going on because, as we've already pointed out, thanks to Dice Tales, math is hard. Numbers are hard. So it makes it far easier. And then advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out. So if you've got a D4 of advantage and a D6 of disadvantage, they're just going to cancel out. And then it's not going to be like, well, I've got 3 advantage here and 1 disadvantage. Doesn't matter. They cancel each other out. Because once again, I want to stay away from, okay, so wait a second. So it's at a D8. He's got a D4, so that brings it down to a D6. Does it bring it down to a D4? Where's that rule? I don't want that. So as an example, if a player had 2 keywords that would apply to what they're trying to achieve, they still just get an advantage. Now, where it changes is as they have higher levels of the keywords. So, because we're not going to have levels, but we are going to have experience points that can be spent. So you're going to spend experience points, and you're going to spend experience points in different ways. You'll be able to spend experience points to increase your attributes. And as you've seen in a lot of roll under or roll equal to and under systems, you essentially get to, normally how they'll work is once an adventure's over, you get to choose 3 attributes. You get to roll a 20-sided die, and if you roll higher than that attribute, it goes up. So one of the advancement aspects of this game that we're putting together, and it's funny. So earlier today, I was thinking, oh, so what would I call this thing? And no joke, the first thing that popped into my head was dipshits and dumbasses. I was like, where the hell did that come from? Hey, you guys want to get together and play a little dipshits and dumbasses? Come on. Kevin King says maybe we should cross Rule Master. I think he probably means Roll Master with Math Finder 2E. See, I know the Math Finder part. So I think there's a little bit more math in Pathfinder than you've got in 5e D&D. But the way people refer to Pathfinder is Math Finder, and then it's like, oh, like it's all good. You don't need to know anything about numbers to play 5e. You know. Kevin King says, gee, Jeff, tell us what you really think of chat. That had nothing to do with chat. It was more along the lines of who would actually pick this up. So yes. So if you had 2 keywords that were, just the basic keywords, then you would still only have 1 advantage. So you'd have the D4 advantage. If you had higher levels, then the highest level of advantage. So if, as an example, maybe you had melee 2, which gives you a 6-sided die instead of that 4-sided die, then you would have the highest advantage. Same thing with disadvantage. The highest disadvantage would take precedent over everything else. And then even just a single advantage would eliminate the disadvantage. So the reality is, yes, you're going to be adding these other dice to your 20-sided die roll. It's not going to be a constant thing. So, So W4 says, using experience to improve characters reminds them of champions. There are lots of role-playing games out there that utilize a spend, an XP spend. So that would be one of them. Another one would be to purchase new keywords or to level up keywords. So that would be your experience. And I think what we would probably look to do is just base experience on treasure. Just like the old days. And I think we're just going to do like silver pieces or something like that. Maybe also have gold. But gold is going to be like super, super rare, right? So, I mean, if you think about it, most fantasy role-playing games is like, oh, hey, well, we defeated those 4 goblins. What's in that room? 2,000 gold pieces. Oh, no. It's like, what? It's like, holy shit. I know I'm exaggerating, but, and then nowadays, like, what is it like? Which is it? I'm trying to remember if it's 5e. I think it's 5e. It's not necessarily Pathfinder, where it's gone from, oh, well, this magic item, that's worth 15,000 gold pieces to 150 gold pieces. Anyway, so as far as the action resolution, it should be pretty easy. So all you're really going to be doing is rolling checks against the attributes. So if somebody's trying to decipher a code, if they didn't have a keyword that is somehow applicable, they're going to roll a check against their intelligence. Done. Easy. So no advantage, no disadvantage. So if it was a code that was really difficult for them to decipher, and of course, in a situation like that, I would actually provide the players with what they see, because in my opinion, if they can figure something out on their own, great. They can decipher a clue on their own. I'm not going to make them roll dice for it. But if they couldn't, then they could resort to, well, okay. Or, trying to race across a rooftop in the rain that, okay, you're going to have to make a check against your dexterity. When we get into combat, we're going to talk about how squishy the characters are going to be, and the characters will be squishy even as they're experienced. So I want to put together a game where, one-shots aren't going to be super common for the player characters, but their player characters aren't just going to wade into any old battle, because that, once again, is another tenet of the old school, is that you're trying to avoid combat because characters get killed and you use up resources. So there's that. W Forge asks, would this be player only rolls for attack and defense, or a switch between GM and PC? How would you handle oppositional checks? So an oppositional check, if it were a player character against a player character, or if it's a player character versus an NPC, it's going to be the lowest roll. So it would be entirely possible for someone who had a 16 in an attribute to lose out against somebody who had an 8. Because the person who had the 8, maybe they roll a 2. And then the person with the higher attribute rolled like a 12. So that would be pretty much it. Kevin King asks, items could confer advantage. Yes, exactly. But we could also have the keywords with like weapons and magical weapons and things like that, not only provide advantage or disadvantage as far as hitting it would also provide, you could have it provide advantage or disadvantage for damage. So we've got that as well. So I honestly think that using the keywords really opens up a world of possibilities. And of course, we would roll the game out with probably at least 200 keywords already out there. And the keywords could also apply to NPCs and monsters too. So Gluin RX says, I hope we can steal something from Tunnels and Trolls. There's some quaintness to turning every battle into a math equation. All right, A, I need you to roll 52 six-sided dice. Go. All righty. So that kind of sums up. Like I said before, the action resolution, pretty simple. Pretty simple. And it's going to be the same for saves. It's going to be same for combat. So essentially, you're always going to be looking to roll low, except when you're doing damage. So W4 in D&D, experience was determined by monsters killed, treasure found. I guess it's not part of the old school. Well, which one was it? Was it OD&D that it was only treasure? I know it wasn't. I thought it wasn't until Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that we didn't start seeing experience points for other stuff, other like monsters and stuff like that. Because I know one of the iterations of Dungeons and Dragons was treasure. So Keith Olu said Shadowrun is the king of rolling large numbers of D6s. Oh, I don't know. I don't think it can compare to some of the Tunnels and Trolls stuff, where there's even rules for you to be able to, whittle down the number of six-sided dice you're rolling. So next week, I think we will talk about magic for the system. And just to kind of give you a little clue into it, spells will not have levels, and spells will be cast by way of like mana points, which will be determined based upon if it's an arcane spell or if it's a divine spell. I am strongly considering that the cleric's primary attribute is charisma, not wisdom. I think that actually fits better. So there will not be levels of spells, but there will be, more powerful spells. They cost more points to cast. There will be like magical backfire, stuff like that, failing at spells. We're not talking like super in-depth, like Dungeon Crawl Classics with all these tables for each spell, but I don't want Vancian magic either. So if you cast a spell, you won't forget the spell. There will be keywords that will help boost the number of mana points that a caster would get in a single day. And I think that's how we'll do it. We'll do the casting points, the mana points, what have you, from midnight to midnight is essentially how we'll do it, where you get a new pool of points at, midnight, whatever. We'll figure something out as far as that goes. But no Vancian magic. It will probably still skew like epic high fantasy magic, not necessarily sword and sorcery sort of magic, although that is obviously an option that people can adapt if they want. so we'll kind of do that. Keith Ulu points out, yeah, Dungeon Crawl Classics does something similar with personality. I thought I remembered that. Just like I had considered using wisdom as your ranged combat attribute. Like aiming for the most vulnerable spot kind of thing. Because I don't want to have like a dump stat. Nobody ever wants to have a dump stat. So as far as like hits, we're probably looking at either just straight up Constitution, once again, keywords to help boost that. And we'll probably have something where as you're gaining experience, you can spend experience points to increase your hits. Not crazy, but we're not going to have like, my character's got 85 hit points, because we don't want the combat to just drag on and on and on. And we've talked about this before, that it just, that's, in my opinion, one of the things that unravels most modern role-playing games is that the combats can just drag on. And the main reason for it is because of hit point bloat. W4 says, what? No comeliness? No. That could be a keyword, though. Yeah, I'm telling you, this keyword thing, kind of cool. All right. W4 says, in Champions, it's been a long time since I really got in, took a deep dive into Champions. You would regularly roll 10d6 for damage. But, funny enough, in Tunnels and Trolls, it would not be unusual for like higher level characters for combat to be rolling like 40 d6s and stuff. It is really, really bizarre. All right, so hopefully this is kind of coming together. Maybe have kind of sparked some interest with you. I was talking to Elliot today, and I said, I would really like to try to like play test some stuff, because actually Elliot bounced around a few interesting ideas. And I said, what I'd probably look to do is just take, like, we've been talking about the classic Dungeons and Dragons adventures from the 20th century. Take one and just see how easy it would be to kind of work with it on the fly to test out some of these ideas. So anyway, everybody do me a favor if you could, because I'm kind of curious as far as the algorithms going. If you're watching live, of course, hopefully you're giving the video a thumbs up. But later on, could you toss a comment onto the video? Maybe comment about something that we talked about in this episode about creating the game that might have sparked your interest, or you can even float out your own ideas and stuff like that. Because I'm kind of curious. I want to see, because my videos don't tend to get a lot of comments. All depends. But the live shows, I should say, don't tend to get a lot of comments. Kind of curious as far as if there's more comments on it, what we'll see from the algorithm. Anyway, it's just a thought. So everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Of course, I will be back on Tuesday. We are once again going to explore a classic D&D adventure, and we'll talk about maybe ways that we can adjust things to make them a little more, maybe even speed things up at a modern game table. I'm thinking on Tuesday, we might talk about the Slaver series. So, but I think we'll do A1 through 4. I have never seen A0. So it's not something I have any familiarity with at all. I'll see if maybe I can take a peek at it. But I think that's going to be our Tuesday show. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday. And of course, if you were watching live, thank you very kindly. If you watched live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap to you, because not only were you keeping me company as I'm just spitballing ideas out there, you're also keeping each other company discussing the good or ill of eggnog. But I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, most Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as this weekend's review of The Terror Beneath from Osprey Games. So stay tuned for that. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit the newly redesigned thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know what I mean. Come on, you already know. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.